Nice way to do it. Don't have to pull up the tape or anything. Got it amended and we're good to go. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope everybody out there is having a fantastic day. It is Friday, January 6th here in South Georgia. Got a nice cool 60-degree day out here. And on today's video, we need to do a little bed turnover and planting that we were going to do in that last video before we got distracted by little Miss Baby Essie there. So we're going to do some replanting in the raised beds here, and then I'm going to take you over to the greenhouse and give you a very important update on our fig trees. Now this time of year, I always struggle a little bit trying to figure out if I want to plant another round of cool season veggies or if I want to save my available garden space for warm season planting, which will start in just a few months. So down here in South Georgia, we can actually plant 2 rounds of cool season vegetables every year. We can plant in the fall, harvest in December right around now, and then we could plant again now and then harvest say in mid to early spring. Now as far as this quandary goes, I'm not really talking about the continual harvest cool season veggies, things like collards or kale. We're just going to leave those where they are, let them keep producing. They'll eventually bolt in say mid to late spring, and then we'll figure out what to plant in those spaces. I'm more talking about the one-time harvest cool season crops, things like broccoli, cauliflower, or cabbage. So this time of year, I'm always questioning, do I plant more broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, and kind of push back my warm season planting a little bit, maybe even a month, or do I just leave some of these spaces open for a couple months? That way I can plant my warm season stuff as soon as the temperatures allow. So I think this year my plan is going to be not to plant any more broccoli or cauliflower. I might plant a little more cabbage. Haven't really decided yet. I think I'm going to stick with more short-term stuff in this little window that we have right now, this little 2 to 3 month window. So things like lettuce, maybe some greens mixes. I think I ordered some seeds for those the other day. So we'll try to get those planted when we get them in. So shorter term things that mature a little faster. That way when we get ready to plant our warm season stuff, we're not pushed back very far. So on today's to-do list, we've got this rectangular raised bed here that got zapped by the Arctic blast. Everything in here is toast. We've got a clean slate we can work with, and I think I'm going to try direct seeding some lettuce in here. Now with the exception of doing some densely planted lettuce mixes on occasion, I almost always transplant lettuce, but this time, today, we're going to try direct seeding some lettuce in that raised bed there. A little limited on greenhouse space at the moment. You'll see that in a little bit. So we're going to try direct seeding our lettuce, our head lettuce, as opposed to starting in the greenhouse and then transplanting it out here. So to get this bed ready for planting, first thing we need to do is a little cleanup here, obviously. Now I could just pull up some of these dead basil and zinnia plants, but I think going to leave that root structure in the soil, which I like to do if I can. Sometimes not always practical to come in here and clip everything, especially if it's on a larger scale. But in here, shouldn't take but just a minute or two just to clip all this stuff at soil level, leave all those nice root associations in place there. All right, so we got all those dead plants clipped and removed. Go dogs. And I think I'm going to be able to just leave this drip tape in place, not pull it up and put it back down, and just plant to the side of it where it sits right now. Seems a little tight for me for lettuce spacing, but in that taller bed right over there, which has the same footprint as this one, we did 4 rows in that bed, kind of just like we have laid out right here. So we may have to harvest some of the heads smaller to make room for some of the others, but I think it'll work. But before we plant, it's always a good idea to do a little bed amending. So we're going to dump our scraps in that geo bin. Got some dried okra pods there too. And we're going to come over to this one where we have some nice black gold and fill up our dog's bucket. Alright, so we got our dog's bucket full of homemade compost, and I've got a little bit of Pro Mix in that smaller bucket there. Going to use that at the very end. But now we can do a little bit of amending. Now you see these kind of 4 distinct ridges here. That's where our drip tape is buried, and like I said, we're not going to pull that up. But I do kind of want to keep those ridges because I want to be able to tell where my drip tape is, because I'm going to plant right to the side of it. If we just dump compost over this whole thing and level it out, it's going to be hard to tell where our tape is. So what I'm going to do, instead of dumping compost over the whole thing, is try to just dump it in these little valleys here and maybe mix it up a little bit. So I might have to just put this stuff down by hand a little bit here. I don't know if I can dump it in the middle that accurately. This won't take but just a minute here. So we got our homemade compost in those kind of valleys there. We can still see the lines where our tape sits. And I do want to mix this in just a little bit, not a lot. So I'm just going to take this little 3-prong cultivator here and just kind of lightly stir it into the top a little bit. Then I'm just going to take my hand here and kind of redefine my ridges a little bit, because we're going to plant on both sides where this tape sits. Do some double rows. All right, so that worked out pretty well. We can see tape right here, tape right there, and then we'll have a little mini furrow on this side of the tape, mini furrow on this side of this tape, and then with this tape line here, we'll plant here and here, same thing over there. So planting on both sides of the tape, and we can see where the tape is. Nice way to do it. Don't have to pull up the tape or anything. Got it amended, and we're good to go. And we're going to be planting the same 5 varieties of lettuce that we transplanted in that taller raised bed back in the fall. So we got Ure, we got Adriana Butterhead, we got the Bauer Oak Leaf, we got the Salvius Romaine, and then the Cherokee Red Lettuce. Now all these are pelleted or coated with clay, which means they're larger, easier to see, easier to handle. But for me, at least, it means that they don't store as well. I just don't get good long-term germination out of pelleted seeds. So I need to use these up, because you know, this lettuce planting is going to be my last lettuce planting until next October. So probably going to plant these a little thicker than normal in here, just to ensure a good stand, since I need to use up these seeds anyways. So we'll start off with the Cherokee lettuce on this double row. Let's see just how many seeds I got here. I may determine exactly how thick I plant them. I got a bunch in there. So probably going to put these, I'd say 1 seed every 4 to 6 inches or so. I'd eventually like about an 8 to 12 inch spacing on these, but we'll plant some extra seeds. That way we'll make sure we get a nice good stand here. And these pelleted seeds are really easy to see, so we can accurately space them here. And we're not going to cover these up quite yet. We're going to go ahead and plant all 4 double rows, and we'll cover them all at one time. So I think we'll go romaine next in this double row. Now we've got our seeds and all these little mini furrows. I'm going to cover them with some of this Pro Mix here, because it's nice and fine. My compost is still a little chunky. Yeah, I could probably sift it, but I've got plenty of this Pro Mix from the greenhouse. Just kind of lightly sprinkle this on top of those seeds. I don't want them planted too deep. I'm just going to cover them with some of this. Hopefully that'll keep everything nice and moist there, but not too moist, so we get some good germination. So we got all those mini furrows lightly dusted with Pro Mix, not a lot, just enough to barely cover those seeds. I'll probably turn on the irrigation system here in a minute and soak it down pretty good, but I might still have to hand water a little bit just to break up that clay pellet around those seeds and get them to germinate well. Now I don't know why this came to my mind as I was planting that lettuce, but it did, and I thought I'd share it with you all. So I've seen, you know, people on Instagram and stuff planting in raised beds, and some people will plant by poking a little hole with their finger or dibble and then put a seed in the hole. But I've always been one just to make a furrow. Maybe it's because I'm used to doing so much in-ground gardening, maybe because I just find it faster to do it that way. But let me know in the comments below, are you a hole poker or do you make a furrow to plant your seeds? All right, so now let's step inside the greenhouse here and talk about these fig trees. So we got this 10 by 16 greenhouse about as full as we can get it. You can see it is loaded to the brim with fig trees. Some are still in the 2.5 inch pots, waiting to get big enough to be stepped up. And then we got a lot of them stepped up here into the 4 by 9 pots that they'll be shipped in. So a few days ago on our website, lazydogfarm.com, I went ahead and published all the pages for all the varieties that we'll have available this year. Now, not all of those varieties are in stock right now. Some of them say sold out. That doesn't mean they're sold out. We're not sold out of any particular varieties yet, but I don't really have a way to make our website say coming soon as opposed to sold out. And I wanted everybody to kind of see all the varieties that may be coming down the pipeline. So some of them are in stock, some of them will be put in stock in the next month or so as we step them up to these pots right here. So if you order one of our fig trees, this is what you'll get: a 4x9 pot with a nice little fig tree in it. And this year we also have these little labels here. Those help me out a lot in here keeping things straight, but hopefully you'll enjoy those as well, especially if you order multiple trees. So we'll start shipping these in the next couple of weeks as the weather allows. We won't ship them if there's any risk of them experiencing freezing temperatures en route to your place. So we'll probably prioritize the more southern states first, and then as things warm up into spring, ship to the northern states. Now, as of right now, we can ship to the contiguous U.S. with the exception of Arizona and California. And I apologize to our viewers in Arizona and California, but their interstate plant shipping regulations are just way too strict for what we're doing as far as shipping individual trees. Now, as far as the northern states go, we've had a lot of people asking, well, just how cold hardy are these fig trees? And I don't have a great way to test cold hardiness because it doesn't get that cold down here. I will tell you, all my trees outside experienced 16 degrees just a couple weeks ago, and they're just fine. So this is what I tell people: if the high teens are as cold as you're ever going to get, you're probably fine. Don't need any kind of protection plan. If you consistently get in the low teens or even single digits, you're going to need some kind of protection plan, whether that's covering the plants if they're planted outdoors, or just planting them in a big pot. That way you can bring them outside when it gets really, really cold. Now let's talk about some of these varieties that we have available right now. And just as a side note, it's free shipping on all these, and they're all shipped individually, so it's not going to cost you anything more if you want to order a variety you really want right now and wait till another one becomes available and get that one on a separate order, as opposed to just waiting and getting them all at one time. So if you do make 2 or 3 orders, it would cost the same thing as ordering them all at one time. Now, with figs, there are 3 distinct flavor profiles. There's honey figs, berry figs, and sugar figs. And there are some figs that kind of sit in the middle of some of those distinctions. So as I explain these different varieties, I'll tell you whether it's a sugar fig, honey fig, or berry fig. So we'll start out with this one here that I'm holding, and this one's called White Marcel. I don't know if the camera will focus in on that name there or not. So this is a honey fig. It's got a green exterior and then kind of a yellowish interior. Really sweet, really good tasting fig. This one is a really fast grower. I've got some trees that are just a few years old and they're getting really, really big. They put on a lot of new wood every year. And this variety is supposed to be especially cold hardy. Like I said, I don't have a way to really test that down here, but from what I've read, it is really, really cold hardy. So this would be a great variety for you northern growers, or for those of you who want a really fast growing honey fig. And another honey fig variety we have available right now is this one here called Mary Lane Seedless, or some people just call it Mary Lane. This is another fast growing tree. If you've been watching a lot of our videos, I've told you about this one in the past. It has a really kind of tall, upright growth habit. So if you want a nice taller tree, this one tends to grow more straight up as opposed to being bushy like a lot of other fig varieties. But it grows really, really fast. Then we have brown turkey, which a lot of people have heard about. This is a pretty popular variety. So this is a sugar fig, and brown turkey is a variety I like to call a gateway fig. So once you get into this fig stuff, you get a couple varieties, it becomes somewhat of an addiction and you just keep adding varieties. But if you're new to figs and want a really easy tree to grow, kind of foolproof fig variety, brown turkey is a good one to start with. So if you've never grown figs before, recommend trying a brown turkey, and then you can add other varieties as you kind of experience the whole fig phenomenon. Another sugar fig variety we have is this one here called G.E. Neri, and we did a lot of videos about this fig back in the fall when it was producing. This is the one that makes the absolutely giant figs. So they're bigger than a golf ball, almost as big as a tennis ball. Really, really tasty. Now this variety is a late producer, So some of these varieties produce really early in spring, some midsummer, some varieties produce, several crops throughout the year, and we have that all listed on our website. Generi is more of a late summer, early fall variety, and I really like having varieties that produce at different times. That way I can enjoy figs, all throughout the warm growing season. So it's nice to have some early producing varieties like brown turkey, but also nice to have some that are going to give you some good figs, towards the end of the summer, rolling into fall. And as we're traveling along that flavor profile road there, somewhere between sugar figs and berry figs, we have LSU Tiger. So most people consider this to be what they call a sugar berry fig. So you've got some sugar flavor, some berry flavor, kind of the best of both worlds if you like those two flavor profiles. Now the great thing about LSU Tiger, it's a fast growing fig, but it produces several rounds of figs throughout the warm growing season. So some varieties are kind of one and done. Other varieties like this one is going to give you an early crop of figs, sometimes a mid-season crop of figs, and then a late season crop of figs. So you get some nice continual production from LSU Tiger. And then the only berry fig we have available at this moment, we'll have more coming, but the only one we have available right now is this one called Canadria, which is one of my favorites, an awesome tasting fig. This is a fast grower as well. It's got a green outside and then just kind of a deep red inside. These figs are pretty good size. They're not as big as those G.E. Neri figs. It's a pretty large fig, and this is another one that gives us several production windows throughout the year. So if you're looking for a fast growing berry flavored fig, Canadria is a great way to go. So if you want to learn more about the varieties we have available now, or about the varieties that we'll have coming in the next month or so, you can go to our website, lazydogfarm.com. You can see all the variety listings there. Got some detailed descriptions of each variety. Even got some fig planting information on each page there. Kind of tells you what to expect when you receive one of these in the mail, what to do with it before you plant it in the ground, and just some general fig care tips. So I hope you enjoyed the video today, and if you've got any additional questions about fig trees or any of these varieties we have, put those in the comments below. I'll try to answer them for you. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe, hit that notification button, like, and share. We'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.
Oh, farewell, by the beauty of your life.